boogeyman.
Run, Randy, run!
Welcome to the Inferno. I'm Papa John, and I'm here to guide you through all the hellish sides of horror. And if you'd like to join me on that journey, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell as well. And today, we are continuing our road to Spiral with Saw, the final chapter, or Saw 3D, whatever you want to call it. And so, let's get started. Saw, the final chapter, is once again directed by Kevin Greutert and essentially involves this jigsaw survivor who writes a tell-all, goes on promotional campaigns, runs group therapy sessions, and is basically taking advantage of being a jigsaw victim, or so we think he's a jigsaw victim. I'll say this right off the bat. This is not a great movie by any means, but I am probably going to be more positive than most people, simply because I loved the story here. The writing, in terms of dialogue and some character inclusions that have no business being in there and twists that have no business being in there. The story itself, the main story, I really found myself invested into it. I kind of just loved how it explored fraud, and this installment probably has the worst acting. I mean, the main cop character in this movie is terrible performance. It's horrible. And then the opening scene has some really bad acting and some pretty almost cheap looking gore, I guess. But I really did enjoy the opening here, actually. I thought it was a fun, clever opening, and I actually thought initially that they were going to go almost a Scream meta route with the Saw franchise, with given the opening scene, and that we were going to get like this artistic display of torture throughout the movie, which is not at all what happened. And a big thing I noticed about this movie is the traps were way more complicated than they needed to be. They were way more complicated than what the actual purpose of the traps were. Like at the end specifically, when his wife, the main character's wife or whatever, is in the oven thing, like, it was so complicated, and yet all it is just someone stuck in an oven. Like, throughout the movie, she has a chain, and the chain keeps getting closer and closer, and you just think it's going to be, like, this thing that pulls through and, like, beheads her or something, but then all of a sudden an oven, this big spaceship-looking thing, engulfs her at the end and turns into an oven and all of that, and it's just like, why? Why would you make something so simple so complicated? And that's something I found myself thinking a lot throughout this movie. That's just like the biggest example of it. Stuff just being more complicated than it actually is. And I do think from a pure filmmaking standpoint, this is the worst made in the franchise. But actually, when you compare it to other franchises, I don't think it's that bad. You compare it to some of the movies you get in Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw, even like Halloween Resurrection, like half of the Friday the 13th movies. It's not that bad, honestly. I do think a lot of the twists and everything were really very predictable in this movie. And I gotta mention the fact that the return of Cary Elwes' character is the worst thing in this movie, in my opinion. He has no business being in there whatsoever. It just seemed like they were using him as maybe promotional material, saying that one of the original characters is returning. I don't know. I don't remember the promotion of this that well. And so it just kind of felt like he was there for like promotional purposes and he actually ended up serving zero purpose to the actual plot. And it really became like the worst part of the movie for me, even given the acting by the main cop character. All of that being said, it's the worst part of the movie, but at the same time, it's only like a couple scenes, which is why it's so unnecessary and has no reason being there. And it adds too much convolution to the already convoluted storyline and canon timeline of this franchise. So what circle of hell does Saw the final chapter belong in? It's a movie with a lot of issues, even though I do think other franchises, other sequels have more issues than this one. It's a movie that is saved by its core story because it is very investing, in my opinion. I love the storyline so much in this movie. Even if the writing isn't executed the best, I still find it extremely engaging. And so it might be a little unpopular to give this movie a better score than a couple of the other films in this franchise. I have to kind of put it in the fourth circle of hell. It's a meh movie, mainly just because even though it is bad in a lot of senses, it is saved by a great story. Go ahead and tell me your thoughts on Saw the Final Chapter in the comment section down below. I'm pretty sure most people are going to be negative on this movie. Nonetheless, tell me your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this review, go ahead and smash that thumbs up icon. Smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell as well to stay up to date on the road to Spiral. And as always, have one hell of a good time.